Minister of Finance is telling us that she is measuring unemployment figures with an unemployment association that is supposed to have existed and is no more in existence. Mr. Speaker, it completely tells you that this government has failed and has failed big time. Mr. Speaker, if you want to check unemployment, must you go and look at an association that existed or did not exist? Give us the figures. But Mr. Speaker, I'm even more happy that today we are talking of the macro indicators translating into the micro indicators. Because these two must work in sync, they must work together. And so, Mr. Speaker, I refer to the Finance Minister's own budget, and I refer to page 21. Mr. Speaker, we have to deal with the outcomes before we even talk of what we can achieve. Mr. Speaker, if you look at table 4, the manufacturing sector in 2016 grew by 7.9. Today, as we speak, despite what they call one district, one factory, the manufacturing sector has declined to 6.5. Mr. Speaker, if you take the construction sector, which employs the bulk of the youth, which builds the foundation of this economy, in 2016, we were growing the manufacturing sector by 8.4. Despite all what they've talked about, Mr. Speaker, the construction sector today is growing at a negative 8.5%. Mr. Speaker, they tell us that they engage in some financial cleanup. We advise them, they won't listen. When you tell them the truth, they won't listen. Listen to the minister's own document. This is the document from the finance minister. Mr. Speaker, I refer to page 22, financial and insurance activities. 2016, we grew by 8%. Today, we are growing by 1.8%. Mr. Speaker, I dare say that this your so-called growth rate is a convoluted and contorted growth rate that has absolutely nothing to do with the ordinary Ghanaian. Mr. Speaker, the minister makes a certain claim, and I find that most unfortunate. This is a government that has increased taxes on diesel, taxes on petrol, increased the communication service tax by 50%, and even gone to the extent of increasing tax on ordinary LPG that we use for cooking. Mr. Speaker, this is a government that has increased petrol from 16 to 24 cedis. Mr. Speaker, when you do the arithmetic, we consume 4.6 billion liters of petroleum product every year. When you check this increment and the taxes, the taxpayer, you are taking directly from the ordinary taxpayer 10 billion cedis. Mr. Speaker, this is a government that promised us that on assumption of office, they will reduce corporate tax from 25 to 20%. So far, they have failed to do that. And there's a popular saying, Mr. Speaker, that if you can't get anything for your in-law, don't turn around to take the little that your in-law has. This is a government that has increased our income tax from 25% to 30%, Mr. Speaker. And yet the minister looks into our faces and tells us that having taken all this money from our pockets, he has put money in our pockets. Put money in our pockets indeed. Mr. Speaker, it is only the NPP government that puts money in your pocket by taking money out of your pockets. Mr. Speaker, go to the agriculture sector. They have launched what they call planting for food, rearing for whatever, all kinds of slogans. Mr. Speaker, this is the outend here. If you look at the agriculture sector, Mr. Speaker, based on the minister's own assertion, it is dropping from about 4.6 to 2.2. Mr. Speaker, managing the agriculture sector is not about sloganeerism. It's not about launching of programs and projects. It's about a dedicated and a committed attitude to doing that.
Tell them.
Mr. Speaker, this is a government. This is a government. Mr. Speaker, this is a government that told us that they were going to raise a revenue of about 59 billion. Mr. Speaker, today, as we speak to you, the minister himself concedes that he has deviated from the revenue target by 13.6%. And we told them, Mr. Speaker, but they won't listen. Mr. Speaker, this is the government that has decided that spending on infrastructure, spending on roads, spending on hospitals is not a priority for them. Theirs is to spend on consumption. Today, President Mahama can boast of hospitals. He can boast of an international airport. He can boast of interchanges. Yes. He can boast of roads.
Yes.
What will Mr. Akufo-Addo be remembered for?
He has been sleeping. He has been sleeping.
Mr. Speaker.
He's been sleeping.
Mr. Speaker. President Akufo-Addo be remembered for
a sleeping president.
When the people of Ghana decide that on the 7th of December 2020, they will boot him out.
Yeah.
The only thing he'll be leaving for us is a limping free SHS with double track, Mr. Speaker. That is the legacy of President Akufo-Addo. Mr. Speaker, this is a government that told us that they were reprofiling our debts and that they will reduce our debt burden. Today, our debt has increased by a nominal figure of 73.3%. Today, every Ghanaian is indebted to the tune of over 7,500 cedis. Mr. Speaker, that is the track record of President Akufo-Addo, Dr. Bawumia, and the Finance Minister, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta. Mr. Speaker, at this moment, I want to do something, Mr. Speaker, because I have just about 4 minutes. I want to educate the other side on how capacity charges and how energy debts are discovered, how they are computed, and how they are calculated. Mr. Speaker, the minister makes the claim that we have an installed capacity of 5,000, and all he does is to subtract our peak demand and say that that amount represents our capacity charge. Mr. Speaker, that is like turning energy economics upside down. Mr. Speaker, in the energy sector, let me make this clear and abundantly clear and substantially clear that you do not use capacity based on installed capacity. You rather do that based on available capacity. So if the power is not available, where does the capacity come? Mr. Speaker, this is a document from the Electricity Company of Ghana. This is an official document laid before this House, and it was, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of Mr. Kwame Agyemang-Badu. Your committee sat on this. The Electricity Company of Ghana did the right thing. And I want everybody to listen, Mr. Speaker. They made the claim that our dependable capacity, which is the right thing to do, is 3,424. So this 5,000 is a non-starter and it cannot come in. However, our peak demand is about 2,800. We export about 200, which means that out of the 3,400, we consume 3,000. Now there's supposed to be a 400. In the energy sector, there is something known as reserve margin. You ought to have about a 12% reserve margin. When you account for that 12% reserve margin here, your so-called take-or-pay installed capacity is moot. It is a non-starter and is dead on arrival, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you want to confirm what I'm telling you, Mr. Speaker, the chairman of the Finance Committee is in the House. When they came increasing those levies, we demanded that they should give us a breakdown of how they are going to utilize the money. Mr. Speaker, here is the document. In the breakdown, out of 540 million, they are paying 331 million to a company known as Stratcom Energy. Stratcom Energy is a company that was formed in 2017 and now supplies fuel products. What has the supply of fuel products got to do with the take-or-pay in the IPP sector? Fuel is a pass-through. Fuel is a pass-through. And so, Mr. Speaker, I want to make it clear that this so-called take-or-pay that the minister wants to tell us is only an attempt to take money from the ordinary Ghanaians and end up paying for fuel. Mr. Speaker, it's not on my side. And so, in concluding, Honorable Kweku, Mr. Speaker, on this note, the Akufo-Addo government must leave office and leave immediately because on the cycle of them, we shall vote them out and they will go home and they will know that the people of Ghana are tired of them. Thank you very much.